welcome to MBA Rewired, the podcast where we are in conversation with industry leaders to understand and explore how careers, industries, and management education itself is changing in a rapidly evolving world. In this episode, we turn our focus on a career path that is aspirational but also very competitive, the career path of finance and investing. And to understand what are the changes today, how B schools and MBA graduates need to prepare, we are joined by Mr. Abhishek Goenka, who is the CEO and managing partner with RPSG Capital Ventures. Hello, Mr. Goenka, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Farhana. Thank you so much for having me over.
So, you've had a really exciting career, a career where you've started with private equity and now you're in capital ventures. So please tell us a little bit about that. What drew you to this? And, at every step, what made you take the changes or opportunities that you did?
Sure. Farhana, thank you so much once again. I think, look, where you move in your career is a function of two things, right? Number one is, genuine, passion and hard work that you kind of put in. And second, I think is an equal amount of luck as well, right? I would, look, a lot of people, kind of put in a lot of effort, put in a lot of hard work, but it's not always necessary that they are lucky, right? I've always used three principles, in terms of, whenever I want to move roles or move careers, right? First and foremost, if there is a role that kind of instills a good DNA in me, okay, or if I get to work with a great boss. And third is, as Steve Jobs had mentioned, if you find something that you genuinely love doing, right? Whether it was my first, when I started with investment banking initially with JP Morgan, I think it was a great role, right? I was in the top bank, globally, right? But probably 2 or 3 years down the line, I just felt that this is not something, that was something I was like really, really happy doing, right? I learned a lot, but that was not me. And, then within JPM, I'd actually moved into the investments role. And I think within the first 3 months, I realized that, look, this is something that probably I want to do for the rest of my career, right? I enjoyed every single day of it. And I think that's the first career jump I'd actually taken, right? And from there, when I moved to True North, which was, true-blooded private equity fund, I was doing a lot of consumer. And when I started doing consumer, I think just found that instant, sort of a love, right? I could probably, I was predicting trends a lot better and then a lot better than, let's say, some of my peers. A lot of my calls were going, right. I was able to underwrite things a lot better. I think that's when I thought that, look, consumer and that to investing is something, where my love was. And I think I've just been fortunate with great bosses, including the one, over here. So I think probably that's the reason, we are having this discussion today.
Okay, that's very exciting to know, and it's a very welcome change to hear such good things about bosses.
Yeah.
So tell us what makes this such a fascinating and aspirational career choice for a lot of MBA grads.
I think, few things. Number one, I just feel that investing role in general as compared to some of the other, roles out there, it's a lot more infinite. Okay, which essentially means that, look, in most of the roles, when you land up spending about 3 to 5 years, you pretty much, would have captured whatever that role, has to offer, right? And then, you'll just kind of, be excellence, or you'll just be more productive in that particular segment.
Right.
When it comes to investing in general, this is a lot more wider, and it can get like really, really deep. So for example, in consumer, sector alone, there are about 72 subsegments, right? Now, if I kind of extrapolate that to multiple sectors, right, whether it's healthcare, financial services, etc., right, there are easily about 250, 300 plus subsectors in, country alone. And, as you're developing, that sort of an expertise in each, right, this keeps you intellectually challenged at all points of time, right? I think that satisfaction that you land up, getting at the end of, doing a deal or making money from a deal, working with a founder, implementing something, and then seeing success in that implementation. I think that job satisfaction is something that gives me the kick. And last but not the least, I think the money is pretty good.
Sure.
When it comes to this role, right? I think these are the few things that I've seen. A lot of candidates, whether in their early years or let's say even later years, this is something that
Yeah.
attracts them. Yeah.
So, it's interesting that you talked about all these domains and different things that people can build their expertise on throughout their career, right? So I think this is all one of the first times I'm hearing about it, and I'm sure that a lot of people who are willing, who are interested in this career don't really have a very good idea of what the role sort of entails, right? So apart from boardroom meetings and all of this, we really don't know what goes on inside. So can you give us a glimpse of what the role is like, or maybe a day or a week in your role?
Sure. So, I'm thinking, look, I think, let me give you an average day for me,
Sure.
right? And, and that kind of goes back to my point on, the width of the role, right? So, let's say the morning, in a morning, probably, you could be discussing with the founder or brainstorming with the founder on a new idea in, um, let's say the food space, right? That same afternoon, you could probably be building a model in a for a healthcare business. Okay.
Right.
That same evening you could be doing legal documentation for an apparel company, and that same night you could probably be working on a tax structuring note, let's say for a healthcare clinic. Okay. Now that, and this could be even wider, right? I've just picked up like four aspects. Now extrapolate that to multiple subsegments, extrapolate that to a wide thing, as running a business. A founder could come to you and say that, look, I'm trying multiple things, but probably this is not working out. So then you need to kind of get into a certain operational boot, and you need to start problem solving for something like that. So it's very, very wide. Okay. I think one of the things that people need to expect, or while coming into this is a high stress job, right? There are large stakes at risk.
Right.
Okay. At every given point of time, you're going to be running against time, right? So and generally, every day is a learning, in some shape or form. You're meeting with brilliant entrepreneurs that actually know more than you, right? So every day you're learning something new, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a typical week kind of looks like. So I think high stress, very, very goals oriented, something you'll end up becoming a sponge because you're learning kind of every day. And then there's that kick that where you want to kind of deliver something.
Yeah, so you've got, I think anybody who wants to come into this role,
Mhm.
then they'll have to, pick up some skills, some um, stuff that they need to be able to deal with. Because you said it's a very high stress environment,
Yes,
right?
that's
And you
true.
have to deliver, there's a lot at stake.
Sure.
So for somebody who's in their MBA journey, okay, in
Yeah.
the 2-year MBA journey, what do you think are some non-negotiable skills that they need to pick up to be able to deal with all of this?
I think, look, few things. First, I think you have to be great with numbers. Okay, there is no shortcut to that, right? And when I say numbers, it doesn't mean you working just simply out of an Excel or a calculator, right? I think in general, numbers should talk to you. You should be really comfortable with that. You should be able to make logical sense when founders are kind of pitching to you, okay, or when you are kind of evaluating a particular industry. I think that's a non-negotiable. Secondly, I think you need to be great with people and people relationships, right? Now, whether those are negotiating documents, or negotiating a business decision, or negotiating or let's say discussing a particular problem, right? You need to know how to manage people, right? So especially when you're investing, it's not you who are running the business. You are essentially backing someone who's running the business, and investing in an entity, in a business where you do not have control.
Right.
right? So every discussion or every interaction that you have with the management or the founder, right, it's essentially you're managing that person in
Yeah.
some shape or form, right? So I think that becomes critical. I think number three is probably how to your ability to unlearn. I think that is very, very important, and especially in today's age where things are very, very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what things were probably 5 years, earlier just don't exist today, and I'm sure this same journey is going to happen probably a 5 year
Sure.
or a decade from now, right? So how quickly you're able to, unlearn, becomes very, very important.
So, it's interesting, all of these skills that you need to pick up, right? So, while you must have met so many aspirants who are new to this field, right?
Mhm.
So, do you see skill gaps anywhere? Do you think any of these skills are lacking today?
I think, look, in some shape or form, I do see the last point which I mentioned,
Mhm.
because people are, and it's very human, right? When you've kind of done a particular thing in a particular way, you tend to believe it's a norm, right?
Right.
Now, especially, with the dynamism in the businesses, how decisions are taken, I think for you to unlearn that, right, becomes critical,
Mhm.
right? I do see, gaps in this particular front. I think secondly, because again, you're working with a quite, a, I would say, a width of, knowledge or sectors, or avenues where, you need to apply yourself. I think it's important for you to synthesize your learnings and communicate to the team. Okay, because let's say for example in the same instance that I gave you for a particular day. Now if I'm learning four different things that particular day, now, and I do this over, let's say, 2 months time, how do I synthesize all those learnings and then come up with a particular trend that I predict something like this is
Right.
going to happen over the next 3
Mhm.
years, right? Now for you to be able to join those dots, okay, and then communicate to your team,
Mhm.
to your boss, or to actually take a call, I think it requires a certain amount of expertise, it requires a certain amount of mind frame, right? While, look, I don't expect someone who's completely fresh out of a college to be doing this, like, to ace
Yeah.
it, but to have that bent of mind, to be able to do this even maybe in smaller things, is what I look for in candidates, and that's where I see maybe a little bit of gap
Sure.
today.
So, now that you've talked about the skills that they need, the gaps that exist, so when you're hiring a candidate, what is one of maybe one or two key differences that you find in candidates who make it through and who don't?
I think short answer, it's the attitude.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. So I look at the core, I believe that it is your attitude
Mm-hmm.
and not your aptitude that determines your altitude. Okay,
Okay.
so if you know if like if any you pick up any of my team members, right, so one of the things which I judge them on, are they willing to be a sponge, right?
Mm.
You I mean, of course, look, putting in long hours is a hygiene, right? But to
Right.
have that mental frame as to I'm going to learn, right? I think
Mm.
for me that is absolutely critical, because if there's a person who has a certain hygiene amount of skill set, knows numbers, uh, comes from a good institute, etc. All of that. So that's hygiene for me. That little bit more is that willingness to learn, is that attitude, right?
Mm.
Because if that's there, in some time you will be able to learn and do things better than someone who kind of claims at that point of time that he or she knows that better than
Yeah.
others.
I'm very happy that you say this because
Mhm.
your answer kind of leads me to the next
Okay.
question. And of course, there's a very set criteria when we say somebody's in finance. Like you said, the hygiene parts of it, of course,
Yeah.
somebody who's good at numbers,
Hmm.
who can put in the long hours, deal with the stress and all of that. But do you feel there are candidates that may come to your mind who may not fit this exact mold, but again, like maybe have a different attitude and have a good attitude that can sort of help them in this?
uh, Actually, Okay, so I'm going to answer this question slightly differently.
Sure.
Okay, see what I feel, at least in today's world, right? You, let's say, when you are telling the team that this needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think gone are the times when you tell them how this needs to be done,
True.
right? They are super smart. Okay, they will find a a better way and a more efficient way of doing that same task.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is something that's been my learning over the last 5 odd years. There are so many times, right? So I remember, when I started this fund, um, earlier, my team actually did not have too much of investment experience,
Okay.
right? So and the initial formative years when we were doing it, so we were kind of making processes, etc. And I used to tell them that, look, this needs to be done. Okay, let's do ABC or XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
etc. This is the way to be done. That's how the model needs to be made. But now, even when I hire someone from a non-investment background and I just give them a problem statement that, look, uh, I need to do this, or we need to kind of find this, they'll find a super smart way. They know how to use AI tools
Right.
way better than me. Okay, they're quick to catch on to even something new, right? Even so, just to give you an instance, about what, 2 weeks back, right? There was a investment committee note that had to be kind of circulated probably in a day's time, and usually it would take us about 4 to 5 days at least to just kind of put together
Mm-hmm.
that sort of a thing, right? They turned it around in less than 24 hours with very, very low involvement from my end. What we discuss are just simply objectives, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That we need to kind of communicate this A, B, C, etc. And they just did a absolute fab job at it, right? No, I think now, to kind of tie into what you were asking, I think, look, this is a skill set, right?
Right.
Uh, Earlier, I think this was just people would not kind of give a lot of weightage to this. I think for me, this now becomes a number one thing,
Mm.
right? Because if someone has that attitude, someone has that frame of mind, he or she can probably do anything.
Okay. So, we've obviously talked about the skills that are required and different kind of candidates that you've met
Hmm.
over the years. But also a lot has been changing in the industry itself, right?
Yes,
Over the
of
years,
course. Yeah.
right? So given that change, what do you think are maybe the newer roles that would come up?
Look, I still feel investments as a career and as an industry is very, very nascent in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
It probably started about 20-25 years back. Okay, started gaining a lot of steam over the last 10-15 years only. Okay, when I compare it to some of the more developed markets, US, right? Those markets are a lot more mature, a
Right.
lot more deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So I still feel we are scratching the surface, right? When it comes to roles, when it comes to opportunities, when it depends upon investments, kind of investments, in which asset class are you investing, all those will become deeper, right? It's going to become wider. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so for example, in let's say in the recent past, some of the roles that I see are gaining a lot of, I think, uh, a lot of importance with respect to whether it's fund managers, whether it's portfolio, right? So for example, ability to add operational expertise to portfolio companies,
Okay.
right? So if I invest in a particular portfolio, then you're going to live with that portfolio for the next 5 to 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? So problem solving on a daily basis, right? That's a skill set that probably that used to exist in some shape or form probably few years back, but now it's gaining a lot more importance.
Hmm.
Okay, founder office roles.
Right.
So where again, it's, you need to be a jack of all trades, you need to be a problem solver. Okay, this role did not exist like 3 or 4 years back. Okay, now that's something that's really sought after, especially by young entrepreneurs that just want to get a flavor
Mm-hmm.
of what an entrepreneurial journey is, and they want to learn from the best, right? So they
Right.
kind of join, they just mirror that person, the founder, for a particular point of time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Other than that, even when I see uh, quant trading, algo trading are actually coming up, as trading strategies, right? And India lacks, a lot of, pockets in terms of knowledge when it, comes to this, right? But I'm very, very bullish on, some of these roles, and hopefully, more like these would kind of open up in the
Yeah.
years to come.
So you would say these are the kind of roles that MBA students or even B schools should be preparing students for, right?
Yes,
In the upcoming.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
So in the light of everything that we've discussed today, we've talked about the skills, the gaps the gaps that exist, and also the fact that the industry itself is evolving so much, right? There are changes. So in the light of all of this, then, how do you think, or what are the things that B schools need to change in their curriculum to prepare students for this?
Um, Look, I would feel, it's I think that a lot of emphasis has to be, given to softer skills. So, for example, uh, problem solving mindset, right?
Right.
Especially in today's age, your you should have the ability of thinking out of the box, right? Uh, this is, I'm not sure if this is kind of really taught, as a subject, right, in some of the things. So, one of the things, I've seen in, let's say, the IB board, there's something called the theory of knowledge.
Right.
Okay. And I just feel it's an absolutely beautiful subject. Okay. What it essentially tells you how to approach a problem, right? And then, you use your experience and your learning to find a solution to that. So your ability to think out of the box, even for regular problems, I think that's going to, set you apart from someone else. I think secondly, and probably in some shape or form a related point, I think people have to get out of this mindset that, look, if I'm going to do a particular process and I'm going to do it really efficiently, uh, that's going to make a career out of it, right? I can guarantee you, AI is going to take that job, anything, which can be processized, right? And I think third, which I kind of mentioned earlier in our conversation, I think the way on how to deal with human beings in general, right? And look, I don't remember a single day in finance where I'm not negotiating something with someone, right? It could be a vendor, it could be a founder, it could be a team member, anyone, right? So, but I know I have to still work with those people. It's not that, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
So, dealing with human beings, or dealing with people in general, very, very important. I think these three soft skills, if someone can actually inculcate, they're going to become a Superman.
Yeah, so along with this, of course, the usual stuff that you learn, the numbers and all of that. But
That's a
soft,
hygiene.
yeah,
That's a
okay.
hygiene for me. You need to be, numbers need to speak to you
Yeah,
in
okay.
general, right?
All right. So, you had a really interesting career, right? And of course, you've had the luck of having great bosses as well.
Thank you.
So, lastly, I just want to know that if you were to advise students today, right, or just advise is something that I don't like to use very often,
Sure.
but if it's something like if you were to start your career today,
Sure.
right, what would you do differently, or what are the things you would focus on to build a more relevant and lasting career in finance?
Okay. So, look, if I could rewind probably 21, 22 years and give myself an advice, right? I'm going to tell myself that, look, maintain like a high emotional quotient. This is a high stress job, right? It's a boilerplate every single day, right? Just stick on, it's okay. The second thing is not to have an extremely low ego, right?
Right.
You know so little at start, and as and when you are progressing in your career, you will know even lesser, right? Because you keep realizing that there's so much more that you don't know, right? Third thing I feel, look, there is no shortcut to hard work, right? Just give it your 110% every single day. And fourth, just to reiterate, be great with numbers, right? Do something where numbers actually talk to you, trends talk to you, right? I think if I was able to kind of build on these four things, probably I would be like a few years ahead of in my career today.
But I'm sure that's amazing advice as well. And I think numbers is something you can't escape, obviously,
Yes,
once you're in
that's true.
finance. But like you said, the softer skills are also very important and
That's
kind of
true.
set them apart, right?
That is true.
Okay.
That's true.
So, Abhishek, thank you so much for sharing all of these things with us and really explaining to us what finance as a career today looks like.
Sure. Thank you so much, Farhana. Thank you once again for having me here.